Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. This is the University of Miami UOnline webinar. We're going to get started in the next 2 to 3 minutes. We're just going to allow a few more people a little bit of time to log in. So just bear with us for another 2 to 3 minutes. Thank you. Okay, everyone, the time is 7:01. We're just going to allow another 1 minute for everyone to log in. Just bear with us. Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to our UOnline webinar. This evening, you will be joined by Mr. Spencer Duke, who is a recent graduate of the UOnline Masters in Accounting, as well as Mr. Brian Hennigan. He recently graduated with a Master's in Finance from the University of Miami. My name is Jonathan Burton. I will be your moderator this evening. I'm also a Senior Enrollment Advisor here at the University of Miami. So thank you so much for joining us. Spencer, do you want to take a second to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Spencer Duke. Prior to earning my master's in professional accounting recently from the University of Miami, I also obtained a Bachelor of Business Administration from the University of Miami and a Master of Business Administration degree as well. The Master of Business Administration was not in the online program. I currently work as Director of Strategic Projects for a company called the Geo Group Inc., which is based in Boca Raton, Florida.
Okay, thank you so much. Spencer, how about you? You want to go ahead and introduce yourself for everyone? I'm sorry, Spencer, we can't hear you. I think your mic might be muted.
Good evening, I'm Brian Hennigan. Right after graduation, actually, I secured a position at NextEra Energy Resources on the revenue team in the energy trading division.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right. So to give everyone a little bit of an overview, today we're going to discuss a couple of things. Primarily the online learning experience. So we're going to go over the motivation that initially drove everyone to consider advancing their degree and why online. We're going to discuss the learning experience in terms of collaborative learning and the online learning model. We're going to allow Brian as well as Spencer to discuss their experiences with their classmates, the faculty members. We're going to dive in a little bit into some of the practices they've taken away from the program. as well as we're going to allow them to offer everyone on the call an opportunity, actually not an opportunity, but just some insight into their study tips. I will take everyone into a classroom demonstration, and then we will have a question and answer session at the end of the webinar. So just some housekeeping. If you have a question, go ahead and message your question in, and we will dive into that question for you. If it's something that's pertinent to the current slide we're on, we will discuss it right away. If it's something we've already covered, for those who may be joining the webinar a little bit later, we'll get back to it. As well as if it's something that just simply isn't on the webinar, we'll get to it in the question and answer session. So thank you, everyone. All right, so initially there has to be some motivation to want to further your education. That's one of the key components of the admissions process for us here. We like to learn about the student and why they are interested in furthering their education. So that's one of the key things we discuss. We want to make sure that the motivation is there in the onset of their inquiry to ensure that they'll be motivated throughout the tenure that they'll have here at the University of Miami. So Spencer, can you tell us a little bit why you decided to go back to school and further your education?
I had done my bachelor's, and one of my majors was finance during that process, and I also had gotten a master's degree doing a lot of finance and that, but more focused in management. So one of the things I thought was missing in terms of my background and that I thought could help me in my career to elevate myself was to specialize in accounting as well. And I didn't necessarily go on a search to say, hey, I want to get a master's in accounting, but in exploring my options and about how I could meet the CPA eligibility requirements in the state of Florida, the University of Miami's online Master's in Professional Accounting program met those requirements for me, so it was something I was planning to pursue anyway, and also gave me the advantage of being able to study online, which was would have been very, not that it wasn't difficult for me, but would have been more challenging had I actually needed to be present and drive to campus. But it also gave me an additional master's degree, which, like I said, wasn't my original intent, but it just aligned with where I wanted to be, and the stars kind of aligned for me.
Perfect. How about you, Brian? What was your initial motivation to advance your education?
Sure, there are two primary motivations. First, simply to continue growing my career. With just a bachelor's degree in a competitive job market, I really felt like I was at a disadvantage without pursuing a second degree. And furthermore, I wanted to change industries. So really having that master's degree I knew would give me a significant advantage, and as it turned out, I had previously applied to the company where I work, and I got to the final round of interviews, but was eventually passed over. I reapplied right around the time of graduation. I got interviewed again, and I got the job. So,
congratulations.
Thank you.
So, I just want to touch on a point that that Spencer had brought up. Both of you all graduated from the School of Business Programs in the Master's in Finance and the Master's in Accounting. Our Master's in Accounting program, although online, like Spencer said, does fulfill the state's requirement for the CPA board. So that's pretty critical for anyone on the line who may be interested in pursuing a Master's in Accounting. This program will take you to where you need to be in terms of CPA eligibility. So that's really good, and both had very different reasons for similar but different reasons for advancing their career. Very good, guys. All right, so business programs. There are 3 business programs that are offered online. It's a Master's in Business Administration, the MBA, a Master's in Finance, as well as a Master's in Professional Accounting. Spencer, you're a double cane, so you have a Master's, actually 2 Masters from the University of Miami. You did your MBA on campus as well as the Master's in Accounting online. Did you find there to be a significant difference in your experience? Can you tell us a little bit about both experiences?
Absolutely. So the biggest difference between the two experiences was at the time that I did the Masters of Business Administration. Although I worked, I wasn't necessarily working a full-time schedule the way I work a full-time schedule today. So it was more of I was working and I was scheduling around my various classes in the MBA program, which may take place in the morning, at night. It just depended, and my employer gave me flexibility to work around that. Well, now 12 years later, I've kind of moved up in my career and don't have as much flexibility in terms of dancing around other people really dictating the schedule. So the biggest advantage to me was being able to do the online program and do my day job, which I spend a significant number of hours doing, but still find the time to allocate out to work on the Master's of Professional Accounting. I loved doing the online program. I love being an in-class student as well, but just for now, where I'm at in my life, online learning is a better fit for me today.
That's really good to hear. As a matter of fact, we have a lot of individuals currently in the program that enjoy that flexibility as well. Even executive level professionals are in the program, all the way up to CEOs. So you're right. The flexibility that online provides is second to none, really, in terms of making your availability to pursue your educational goals, make it feasible. Brian, how about you? Did you find from your undergrad on campus to online learning a significant? Did you find that it was significantly different?
It's different. The online learning is definitely more self-guided. I mean, not that you don't have to be self-motivating in an on-classroom setting, but having to go to class, 3 times a week, it kind of helps you stay on target. Whereas online, you pretty much have to hit your deliverables, and that's it. The reason I chose the online format was similar reason to Spencer's rationale, that I wanted to be able to keep working. And frankly, I reside up in Palm Beach County, so driving to Miami a couple nights a week really wouldn't work out too well while trying to continue working. So in that sense, it really fit perfectly with everything else that's kind of going on in my life, career-wise. So it didn't force me to kind of put my career on hold, which was wonderful.
Okay, perfect. Spencer, we have a lot of people on the line who are mid to late career professionals, and a lot of them have been removed from school for quite some time, and there may be some hesitation in terms of time management. In your case, you've progressed through your career quite a bit. Could you speak a little bit about time management as you went through the program?
I think the structure of the program is it really helps you with time management. So one of the biggest differentiators between the a more traditional on-campus program and the online program is that the online program for the Masters of Accounting was 1 class at a time. So really, you're able to jump into the material, really focus in on one subject matter at a time, and think about how am I going to achieve the goals that have been set out for me each week. The program seems to follow, at least for the most part, a consistent structure as you go from course to course. There are variations that occur, but you kind of get into a rhythm and get better at it over time, and figuring out how long do I need to allocate for each task that I need to accomplish. And then from there you find a pattern, and it gets easier over time as you go throughout. So by the time you're in the last class in the program, it may seem easy to you in terms of time management, but it's because you've had that repetition as you go throughout the program. And for the most part, it's one of those things where it's about you, also in the equation. And Brian mentioned kind of being disciplined. There's some figuring out that goes on, but at a certain point in time, you got to say, okay, this is my deadline, and work towards that deadline, and you got to figure it out.
Okay, and it's really cool to hear from the student's perspective. As an advisor, we normally tell students, particularly in the business programs, the average workload is about 20 to 25 hours per week. If you're in an MBA program, sometimes 25 to 30 hours per week to devote that time to your studies. Now, the deliverables are key. You want to, focus on the syllabus and see what's coming up that week and what you need to do to, like Spencer said, to allocate that time. To that particular project. For online, it's asynchronous, meaning you don't have to log in at any specific time. So pretty much like Brian said, it kind of keeps you in line in terms of what you need to do. Yes, you don't have to be online at any specific time. However, if you are following along in your syllabus and meeting those deliverables, you should be fine. Brian, how about you? Any tips for time management, especially for folks that are a little bit more advanced in their career and don't have a great deal of time?
Sure. Yeah, I was out of school for nearly a decade before returning to the program, so it certainly is an adjustment, but I would say really budget your time. I would say try logging in every day. That would be a goal. I mean, sure, you don't have to. Things come up, understandable, but it's much easier to do a few hours a day than letting it pile up, because once you get behind, it gets much harder. And I think that goes for any program. I would sometimes even on the weekends just log in, do a couple hours of work first thing in the morning, and then get on with my day.
That seems to be pretty unanimous across the board for the students we've interviewed who have recently graduated. Everyone always recommends front-loading your week and getting your reading done up front. So as you go throughout the week, if there's a question, maybe even while you're attending your office hours, if there's something you would like to discuss, you're at least knowledgeable about the material so far. So yeah, I think it's been pretty unanimous across the board that you do have to front load your week and get as much done as you can early in the week instead of letting it pile up to the latter part of the week. So good advice. All right. Now, Spencer, I know you chose to study online because for two reasons really. You reside or work in Boca, which is probably about an hour and a half away from campus. Any other particular reason why you did choose to study online?
Again, the flexibility in terms of really me deciding when I could attend class and doing that self-learning on my own schedule. Also, like you said, the commute made it extremely unrealistic that I would be able to attend courses at the University of Miami in the on-campus program. And Miami was my school of choice, so really. Had I not had the online program, I probably wouldn't even have the opportunity to pursue this career goal that I want to pursue.
Okay, I just want to tell everyone on the call, because the program is online doesn't mean it's any different from an on-campus program. You're still going to use the same faculty members, you're still going to have the same material, same text, same workload commitment. So don't feel as if though you can study online and it may be a little bit easier. It's not. Still the same intensity, same level of commitment, and it does take a great deal of self-motivation as well as self-study. You have to be in your books quite a bit, and like Brian said, he would recommend logging in every day. How about you, Brian? Why did you choose to study online as opposed to on campus again?
Sure, it's quite simple. I mean, two things. I would have either had to put my career on hold and probably move. I'm even a little bit further north of Spencer. So, it really gave me an opportunity to pursue a degree program that, I mean, surprisingly has already made a difference. And I'm very glad that right here in Florida there was such a program.
Pretty cool. Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, in terms of your classroom and your classmates, how was the interaction? Did you find that it was seamless? It was easy? Brian, can you speak about that, about your interaction with your classmates?
Sure, it was very easy to interact. I mean, we already had group projects, but even aside from that, we had office hours every week, and we had discussion boards. We had communication systems, kind of like email. We had a messaging board right on the portal, so it was very easy to get a hold of anyone on any particular day. I mean, messaging classmates, you could get a response same day. Same with faculty. I think the portal was very effective.
Okay, perfect. Spencer, how about the scheduled office hours on a weekly basis? Can you tell us about your experience with the office hours?
Not all professors do it. Some of the professors have a different approach, which is basically email them, call them, any hour of the night, text them. They're pretty open. They're just really dependent on the professor and how they worked. I would say about half the courses I took, there were scheduled office hours. Even in those scheduled office hours, though, even if you couldn't attend, the sessions are generally recorded, and you're able to catch up so you don't miss out on if somebody asks any questions. You can see how the professor worked them through the material or what additional instructions or hints they may have given during that session. So it's not like, even though there are scheduled office hours and it's encouraged to participate in those, it's not looked negatively upon if you're not able to attend due to your timing commitments. It's more just a tool that's available to you. And as Brian said, it's a great opportunity to interact a little bit with some of your classmates as the professor is encouraging that kind of behavior. But it's one of those things where it's just a tool to help you with your studies. It wasn't, at no point was it required in the program that I did. It was a nice to have.
Yeah, you're right. It's not required, but a lot of students do testify about the office hours that they help out significantly, especially dealing with a lot of self-study material. You do come across things that you need the professor's experience and their expertise to elaborate a little bit on the material, and that's what the office hours is intended for. So hopefully everyone is able to take advantage of that. And like you said, even if you are not able to due to your time commitment, it's always recorded and posted back in the classroom for you to go over a little bit later, which we'll dive into as we continue on through the webinar. We'll go into the classroom and we'll take a look at that. Now, faculty, just as Spencer was just saying, a lot of professors may not opt to utilize the office hours. They may send you out their email address. They may send you their telephone number and just say, hey, send me a text message if it's something you don't understand, or give me a call, or send me an email and I'll get back to you really quickly. Brian, can you talk about that? What was your experience in that nature?
Sure, I learned a tremendous amount from the faculty. As you mentioned, Jonathan, I mean, the office hours really are invaluable because it's your opportunity for a one-on-one or, at least in a group instruction setting. I mean, the faculty used Adobe, and they would pretty much use it like a chalkboard or a whiteboard, and they would write on it, and they could actually walk you through the steps to solve certain problems and the problem set for that week. So I don't want to say it was lecturing. It was kind of more Q&A, but it did allow for them to elaborate on the material, and you often would get insight into what were the most important elements of the coursework for that particular week in the office hours. So it also helped with your studying going forward. And the thing I also liked is during those office hours, you got a little bit of a chance to see the personalities of the different faculty members and get a chance to know them a little bit better, which was enjoyable.
Yeah, that is key. That is key. One of the key things students always ask me as an advisor here is how accessible are the professors? And I usually tell students they are pretty accessible, especially when it comes to scheduling the office hours, because that's how they're able to get some face time with the student. Spencer, can you talk about that? Did you find that the professors were just as accessible as on campus, or was there some drop off there? Can you talk about that?
I would say more accessible than on campus. My experience with on campus was there were dedicated times where you needed to respect the office hours of the professor, but outside of that, there wasn't necessarily email communication or telephone conversations that took place. It was usually in-person meetings for additional explanation. Now, some of that may be because when I went through the on-campus program, it was 15 years ago or so. But as far as what I experienced in the online program, I felt the professors were more accessible because, again, a lot of them will email you back, relatively quickly at any given time. Some of them, are giving you your cell phone, their cell phone number. Some of them are telling you to contact them via text message. So I think they really go out of their way to set you up for success in the online program. And in my opinion, they're more accessible than what I experienced on campus.
Yeah, I can speak to that as well. I'm glad you actually brought that up, and I just realized you were in the Masters of Accounting. I know those professors personally, and they are deeply vested in their students, and they try, very much to make themselves extremely accessible. I know for a fact a lot of them teach in the summer as well, and they go out of their way to make sure that each and every term, with every new cohort, that they show their faces. They're there at the office hours. They take the extended time. And they're pretty committed to the student regardless of whether they're online or on campus. How about you, Brian? What was your experience? I know you were in the Masters in Finance. Faculty members are a little bit different. What was your experience?
Oh, I'd say the faculty were quite accessible. I only had, just off the top of my head, I think 2 instructors out of the whole program that didn't hold office hours by default, but they were even willing to hop online and do sort of an office hour setting just by scheduling a time with you. So I found the faculty all very accessible and emailing, usually same day, worst case early next day, but quick responses, very accessible. I certainly didn't feel like that I was forgotten about at any point.
Okay. And last question, and I'm going to pitch this one over to Spencer. Anything in particular that you may have taken away from the faculty, Spencer? I know a lot of them have a great deal of experience in their particular field. In your case, in accounting, anything you can say, hey, I definitely, got this strong takeaway from this particular course?
A particular course, I think to me probably one that stands out is the auditing course.
Mm-hmm.
That was one where I found the subject matter particularly interesting to me. It seemed like it integrated well with the other courses that were taken, and although it wasn't something that was very technical from an accounting perspective, I just really enjoyed the course and the passion that the professors of that course bring to something that otherwise would probably be thought of as being dry material. The course really stood out to me, and I certainly took away a lot of new skills as a result of going through that course that I think will help me in my career.
Perfect. Good to hear. Now, how about your classmates? Do you guys still keep in touch with your classmates after your program? Tell us a little bit about that. How about you, Brian? We'll start with you.
Yes, I have kept in touch with a couple of people. It's been fun because it allows you to kind of bounce ideas off each other, going forward and share ideas just like you did throughout each course in the program. So it's nice, and I also had the chance to meet some of the students that I was in the program with in person, there was a UOnline reception for the business school the day before graduation. So I enjoyed getting to meet some of the people in person rather than just online. And yeah, we've stayed in touch, which is pretty cool.
Cool. Now, we always boast on the fact that we select from top-tier students. And Spencer, I'll pitch this one over to you. What was your experience in terms of learning from your classmates and their experiences, regardless of what particular industry they came from or were in at that time? Can you tell us a little bit about some of the things you've taken away from your peers throughout your program?
I think just the primary interaction for me was mostly on the discussion boards. There was some interaction, with classmates on the office hours, but a lot of times the professor was kind of guiding the discussion. So everything that you see is really typed on those discussion boards, and you aren't necessarily able to put a name with a face, and you don't get biased as a result of hearing the person say the words, and you're really reading the words. And I think in doing that's something that's a very interesting exercise, because you really end up breaking down what the person is saying and analyzing it and preparing a response to that. And I think what I take away from my classmates is just all the different viewpoints and how one person can look at one issue completely different from somebody else, but we can recognize value in that person's opinion and challenge that person's opinion and learn from each other. And so in that way, I'm very appreciative to the University of Miami for bringing the diverse population of students that I interacted with in the accounting program, and also bringing the intelligence of the student population that they brought to the program, that I was able to interact with and challenge and let them challenge me through these discussions.
It's really good to hear. Thank you so much for sharing, Spencer. Now, Brian, and I'll send this one over to you. You said earlier in the call that you applied to a position that wasn't offered to you, and then after or near completion, you got that position, and then I'm sure it had a great deal to do with the advances you've made academically. Can you tell us some of the things you've taken away from the program that you've been able to practically apply in your career now?
Sure. I mean, frankly, I don't know where to start. It's kind of amazing. I would say, I mean, no exaggeration, that my skill set jumped at a rate in, 16 months? That would probably have taken 3 or 4 years on the job. And that's, I would say, the last 2 courses, probably more than anything else. The financial modeling course and the alternative investment courses. I mean, we learned how to use Portfolio 1, 2, 3, which is an advanced stock selection and portfolio building tool. In the financial modeling course, we built all different types of financial models that you can apply in pretty much any finance job that you do, whether you're trying to build a portfolio, whether you're doing capital budgeting. And it was particularly helpful during the course of the week. We would post our status in each one of the parts of the assignments that we're due, and we would basically pick apart each other's work. If you're building a complex financial model, you would sort of dissect one of your classmates' models and make suggestions as to how to improve it, and someone else would do the same for you, and you would really learn from each other that way. And having multiple perspectives on it was very helpful and offered a great deal of insight, and I could take that directly to my job. I mean, it just sharpened my skill set so much.
Wow, that's really cool to hear. How about you, Spencer? Anything you've been able to apply right away?
Everything. Not a single course that I took in the accounting program that was not applicable to some relevance in terms of what was going on at work. In every single situation at work, the skills that I learned in the program, I don't know if it just I was attuned to things differently, but there was something where something would happen at work, and I would say, man, I just read about this yesterday, or I just talked to this professor about this yesterday, and now look, I'm in this situation where I'm dealing with the exact same situation at my current company. So I always dealt heavily in the financial aspects of corporations and things like that, but not necessarily heavily in the accounting area. But accounting seems to permeate so many aspects of business that really all the subject matter from every course I took had relevance to what I was doing on a daily basis, and I didn't really know what I was missing out on until going through the program, the accounting program.
Wow, that's impressive. You said everything. So that's really cool to hear. Now, in terms of, well, we went over time management earlier, and I'll just recap the tips. Front load your week, budget your time wisely, go through your readings earlier in the week. Make sure you're prepared for the upcoming week, prepared for your Q&As, especially for the office hours. You want to go in there with the material already read, and you have some foreknowledge and some foresight in terms of what you want to discuss in the office hours. And that's about it in a nutshell. Would you say anything different, Brian, in terms of time management going through an online program?
No, I think you pretty much covered it. I mean, I don't really have anything to add to that. I mean, mostly front load your week, do the reading early.
Perfect. How about you, Spencer? Anything different you want to add?
I probably wasn't as effective with front loading the week, although I would encourage that. For me, it was really about making sure that you're looking ahead, right away, as early as possible before the class even starts, getting your hand on that syllabus, looking at what's due, what day it's due, having that calendar, and then figuring out a strategy on how you're going to accomplish what you need to accomplish in the time frame that you've been allocated. The other tip I'll give you guys is if circumstances come up that are kind of beyond your control, don't be afraid to reach out to the professor and ask for an extension. I had a few instances where things came up. I had the birth of my son happened about 6 weeks early in the middle of a course, and that's one of those extraordinary things where of course the professor at that time was more than willing to grant a little bit of a grace period on some of the deadlines and that. So I guess one of the tips we didn't talk about is don't be afraid to ask for an extension where you're either struggling with something or a life event happens. I really never ran into the situation where a professor said no to an extension. It was more one of those things where it's like, how can I help you, and let's put a game plan in place but at the same time, the professors were trying to make sure that you didn't get too far behind because they want to keep you on pace as you go throughout. But that's certainly a tip that I would make people aware of. Don't try to take advantage of things or take advantage of people, but also don't be afraid to ask where you need it.
Really good advice. And something else I want to add about time management that Spencer brought up. For anyone in an online program, and maybe you guys can attest to this as well, we do offer students access to their classes 4 days in advance prior to the class actually starting. So you can, like Spencer said, go ahead, get an advanced look at the syllabus, sometimes even get a jump start on your assignment for the first week. This way you're always a little bit ahead, just in the event, like Spencer said, something comes up, life happens. If you miss a step or you miss a beat, it's okay, you can pick right back up because you were already advanced in the course. So just be aware of that. Good advice, guys. Thank you so much for sharing. Now, in terms of basically what Spencer was saying about time management and motivation, as well as Brian, these are the people that are here to support you. It's a whole host of academic advisors to enrollment advisors to your program directors, as well as your professors. And I also want to encourage everyone to utilize your peers. Your classmates are going to be your first line defense for anything. If you miss something, if you need to get something out, if you're not going to attend the office hours, if you want a particular question discussed, send that question over to your classmate, have them raise it up in the scheduled office hours for it to be discussed. And then, like Spencer said, it's going to be recorded nonetheless and posted back in the classroom, and you can always go back and listen into what the professor had to say. So just be aware of that. Classroom. So we're just going to take a quick second to dive into one of the classrooms that's available right now. It's a student orientation. It's a demo classroom, but it will give you a good experience in terms of what to expect should you decide to join us here at UOnline. Brian and Spencer, while I'm in the orientation, if you have any insight you want to share into anything, feel free to bring that up for us. Okay. Okay, guys, so this is what your online classroom will look like as you go into your program here at UOnline. Everything is broken up into weeks. So let's talk about the main page here. So this is where your professor will post all of his announcements, and this is what leads you throughout the program. Every time you log in, you'll find your announcements on the first page. On the left-hand side, you can always navigate to your syllabus. Zoom meetings, when Brian and Spencer attended, we were more using Adobe WebEx Connect. We've now transitioned into Zoom meetings, which is how we host our scheduled office hours. You can always access the office hours there. In terms of your academic calendar, these are just templates, so I'm not going to click into it, but in terms of the academic calendar, that's going to show you, when is the next break coming up? Is there a holiday, or what's going to be due? Your professor may even post something on the academic calendar. Aside from that, your academic advisor will post a lot of information in your academic calendar, such as transcripts that are due, maybe even financial aid that will be posted. So you'll be able to find a great deal of information there. Payments and billing, that will take you into your student ledger. And request course maintenance. Keep in mind this is an online course, so help is always accessible 365 days, 24/7. All you need to do is pick up the phone, give us a call. Someone will be there to assist you. If they cannot fix the problem right away, they will create a help ticket for you, so you can send that over to your professor to let them know you're having difficulty. And then someone in the back end will go ahead and work through that process for you. In terms of the actual class, so usually, if you click on week 1, you'll find the professor will post maybe an introduction about his or herself. The professor will ask you to post a discussion, excuse me, not a discussion, but an introduction about yourself. They may even ask you to respond to a classmate or two. As you scroll through the week, and each of these weeks are always going to be pretty much identical. The professor will list the learning activities for a particular module for the week. This is the student readiness orientation, so it's a little bit different from the class, but the idea is the same. Learning materials that you'll need for the week. And then as you go to the end of each week, that's usually where you will find some sort of assessment, whether it is a test, practice problems, homework assignments. That's usually listed at the end of the week. In this case, it says click here to advance to the orientation module 2 of the orientation in Blackboard. And then Each week is pretty much the same, but I'll give you guys somewhat of a little bit further of a tour here. I'll go ahead and click on week 2 so you can get some experience with that or have an idea what it looks like. So again, in week 2, learning outcomes or objectives, the activities for this particular week. As you continue to scroll, it tells you about the materials that you'll need, instructions, and again, another link to an assignment, whether it be a module or some type of assessment. Completing the assignment, as you can see here. So this gives everyone an idea. Blackboard is pretty much very intuitive for the most part. Once you're inside of a week, you can scroll or you can click, you can jump to a different page, and you'll always know where you are. There's always the tab at the top right where you can always click on it to navigate back to the main page of your particular class. But every student will go through this orientation, so this way you'll be fully prepared for what's in store when your class actually starts for the upcoming week. Excuse me, for the upcoming term. So far we've been monitoring the questions. No questions have come in. So I imagine everyone is pretty up to speed with what's happening or what took place over the webinar. So at this time, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Spencer, do you want to add anything, any motivational tips to anyone that may be listening?
Just don't be afraid to go after what you're looking to do. I had a goal. I didn't know exactly how I was going to achieve it. The UOnline program seemed to meet all the requirements in terms of what I was looking for, and now I'm at the back end of a relatively short journey, 15-month or so journey, but much closer today of achieving my goal of being a CPA in the state of Florida than I was at the beginning of this. So don't be afraid to go after what you think is in your best interest.
Pretty good advice. How about you, Brian? Anything you want to add before we sign off?
Yes, two things. In particular, about the MSF program, although I'm sure it applies in other areas of business school as well. I'd like to first start by emphasizing the quality of the faculty. I mean, really all exceptional instructors and very, very accomplished in their field. If you're someone who's looking at the MSF program in particular, I'd urge you to go online. They actually, over the summer, earlier part of the summer, redid the website, and they have some bios about the faculty, and very, very impressive people. I mean, kind of breathtaking, actually. And secondly, I mean, I would just say MSF programs in general are exciting. There aren't that many out there. definitely has one of the best. For the reason it suited my needs so well is I knew I wanted to focus on finance. I didn't want to do a general MBA, and it gave me the chance to do a deep dive, 8 courses just in financial analytics. So it's an excellent program. I strongly recommend it.
Hey, thank you so much. I just want to thank both of you guys for joining us and offering us your insight, as well as your experience, and any your tips and everything that you had to offer. I'm sure everyone on the call really appreciate it. I really appreciate it. I want to thank everyone for joining us this evening. If you registered for this webinar, you will receive the link to the to this recording, as well as this recording will also be posted on the University of Miami's online, YouTube page. So you will find this this webinar there. If you want to refer it to a friend so they can listen in, that'd be great. The next start date for all 3 of these programs, the business programs for the MBA, the accounting program, as well as the MSF, the next start date is coming up in September. The application deadline is August 7th. And like Spencer said, don't be afraid to drive on and pursue that goal. If you have any questions about the program, feel free to pick up the phone and give us a call. We'd be more than happy to assist you. So thank you so much. Thank you, Spencer. Hopefully we didn't take too much of you guys' time. You guys have a great evening, okay?
Thank you.
Good luck, everyone.
All right, guys. Good night.